This test is the most important test that we do.
I can pull the adaptive cruise control. It says it's unavailable right now. It says it's unavailable. Ah, come on, Rivian. Unavailable. This is when I need it.
My truck is more consistent. My 60,000 mile Gen 1 truck is more consistent than this brand new $100,000 truck at charging. That is crazy to me.
Thank you to our sponsors for today's video: Eaton, Amber, InfyPower, and StarCharge. Eaton is a one-stop shop for implementing reliable and innovative EV charging infrastructure at your site. Across all applications, Eaton's EV charging infrastructure hardware and software gives you the scalability, flexibility, and intelligence you need to charge today and scale up tomorrow. Learn more at eaton.com/EVCI. Also, our sponsor, Amber, providing modern protection plans for your Tesla's battery and more, without the hassle of long-term contracts or upfront payments. Check out the link in the description to explore their plan options and use code SPEC5 for a 5% discount on all orders. And InfyPower is the largest EV charger module provider with over 3 million power modules running reliably worldwide. Their latest G2 collection features ultra-high power density and efficiency for EV charging and energy storage integration. InfyPower, innovation for your power. And StarCharge, the largest EV charging manufacturer in the world, and is also a provider of residential and commercial battery storage with microgrid solutions.
Hello, and a very good early morning to you. It is, 5 a.m. plus or minus here in beautiful northern Colorado. You join me with the new Generation 2 Rivian R1T. This, in fact, is spec'd to be the longest range Rivian on sale. The R1Ts are always a little bit more efficient than the R1Ss, surprisingly, and this one is the Max Pack dual motor on aero wheels, which means it's the full range spec. And today we are going to see how good of a road tripper it is. Now, I have driven with you guys on our channels maybe tens, hundreds of thousands of miles now in Rivians on road trips. And I think that's one of the weakest points about the truck. It's an adventure vehicle. It makes you want to get out into the wild and go drive and go explore. And then you get to a charging station and they don't charge that well. They have some thermal issues, and then they don't really go that far because they're not that efficient. However, if there's ever going to be a spec to lay my criticism to rest, it's this one right here. So we're going to be running the 10% road trip simulation to see if the Generation 2 is any better than the Generation 1. We've actually already run the R1S with the standard LFP pack, and that's leading the Rivians right now. The cheapest Rivian you can buy is the one that's winning. So, yeah, let's go see how this one does. Well, here we are. It is quite chilly out, but that actually might help this car in this test, or this truck, I should say. Many times we find the charging sessions can be a little bit better when it's chilly outside because we can avoid thermal derating. And I've actually just done a charging test here at this supercharger with this truck, and it was able to sustain a full charging session from 0 to 100% without overheating the cables at all. So certainly I think we're in a pretty good place here to have some fun. What we're going to do is basically run the 10% challenge, which means we are going to plug into a charging station at 10%. It just dipped from 11 to 10% as I was sitting here waiting to film this video, and we will charge for exactly 15 minutes. This is really to simulate what you will do on a road trip when you stop at a charger for 15 minutes, maybe run inside, grab a snack, and then hit the road. And then how far can you drive at 80 miles an hour, which is typical road tripping highway speeds, until you dip back to 10%. And so this test is the most important test that we do. It's the one that really can make a purchasing decision for those that understand electric cars and how nice it is to, maybe you're not even on a road trip, just you're driving around town a lot and you just need a quick top up to get down the road. This matters to me more than the outright range and 0 to 100% charging performance. It's how many miles per minute are you adding at highway speeds for that 15-minute charging session. So let me tell you a little bit about the truck once we get everything plugged in and started. So I'm going to do that first, and then, we'll start this test. So let me show you inside, just ahead of us getting everything started. You can see we are at 10% state of charge. We're on the high side of 10%, which is what we typically do. And the battery temperature is perfect for DC fast charging. Now I want to get this thing plugged in right away, but the first thing I'm going to do is pull up service mode and go into right there, tap the top bar 5 times, hit the ride app, and then we're going to go into the secret menus in the Rivian 33748 for those wondering. We're going to come over here to dashboards and high voltage, and we'll give it a second to load up. The Gen 2 is quicker than the Gen 1, and you can see we're at 10% state of charge, 27 degrees Celsius. This metric right here is the most important metric that we're going to be looking for, which is we want to make sure the supercharger is not limiting us in any way. We want to make sure that it's able to deliver the 500 amps this truck wants the whole time, which certainly it will. You can see our battery pack voltage is about 356 volts resting at 10%. And this truck should have plug and charge. So I'm actually going to time the timer separately. But what I'm going to do is pull out the Magic Dock, plug in right here, boom. And of course, Rivians do have supercharging access, but this site is open to all electric cars. So I'm going to plug this in, set the timer, and I'll be back with you once charging starts. So boom, right there, about a 21-second handshake time from plug-in to when it kicked on charging. It's just ramping up charging. And I'm actually going to do something here because we always run climate control on while we're doing this. And the purpose of running climate control, and we can just run driver only. You know what I'm going to do actually, just to make sure it doesn't shut off at all, is I'm going to come over to service and show and tell and turn off show and tell on, limit climate performance off. Then I'm going to come back here to auto, low, and we're just going to shut off the vents we don't need, but we definitely want that one. How exactly are we going to do this? Yeah, auto, but then not on the passenger side, and the rear is off. Okay, great. That's pretty good from my side, I would say. Back to the service mode. What we're going to look for is to see, are we getting the full maximum performance? Whoa, really ripping on the charging there. Low charging speeds on auto. One last setting I have to change here before we go into service mode. The problem is when you exit service mode, you have to restart every time. Yeah, 185 kilowatts, 200 kilowatts, 196, boom, ripping full power now. That's what I was checking to see. So we are getting a good charging session with climate control running. The reason we run climate control is it can actually stress the charging thermal management systems even more, because it has to share with the battery pack and the cabin. And the new Generation 2 Rivian has a reworked, revised, totally redone cooling system with a heat pump, which, might I add, is extremely loud and annoying all the time. They said they removed it farther away for NVH purposes, but I actually think it's more NVH under normal driving than the old Gen 1s are. I mean, these things are loud and buzzy and certainly annoying. Okay, let's see. High voltage, thermal, that's what we want. So, yep, we are getting 500 amps available from the charging station, 490 of which are going into the battery pack. The rest are being used, of course, for climate control to run this 72 degrees. Let's just run 70 on auto. That makes more sense, I think. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Gen 2 truck while it's doing this. But we've got 15 minutes of charging to go, and should be great. Well, we are about 5 minutes into our charging session, and I noticed during the intro that the tow hitch cover was off. And again, since this is the longest range Rivian, I wanted to make sure everything was set. So I reinstalled the little tow hitch cover. Actually, we had this truck a couple weeks ago, and then it went to our buddies at TFL. I think they made some videos with it, and now it's back with us for more testing. And I'm not sure how long we have it for again, but I'm glad to have it back. I love the Gen 2 truck. So anyway, we're still ripping, sitting at over 200 kilowatts right now. So yeah, let's talk about this, the 200 kilowatt charging thing. By the way, I always think that the large packs, especially the Gen 1 large packs, the previous chemistry, charge better than the new max packs. It's the, they're all NMC chemistry, but I forget exactly. In my Gen 2 deep dive review, I went through the difference in the battery cell itself. It's a Samsung 53G cell in this one versus the 50G cell in the older large packs like my Rivian. And I think the 50Gs are better just from a charging perspective. These don't really charge that well. And I really thought Rivian was going to go high voltage for generation 2. Of course, 500 amps isn't the hard limit. We're starting to see non-Tesla EVs like Polestar 3 and Volvo EX90 take more than 500 amps now. Hopefully Rivian can unlock that. But certainly it is one of the slower charging electric trucks on the market right now. We've already run Silverado EV in this test. It's probably going to smoke what this thing will do. Cybertruck will charge significantly faster than the Rivian, and it's similar efficiency for a much larger truck. And so, yeah, I really think the charging performance of Rivian is the main weak point. There's some other things as well, but I just thought for Gen 2, rather than going for this whole electrical architecture change, or I would say in addition to all of that, they really should have, since they were re-engineering everything already, go high voltage. That would have been my request, and got 300, 400 kilowatt charging. That's what this thing needs to keep up. We've got the tonneau cover closed. We've got the 22-inch Aero wheels. These are the factory Aeros that are actually only add a few more miles of range with the covers on. When off, I talked to my buddy Jeff Amoud, who's head of design for Rivian. He's like, yeah, it's a cool design. Maybe it gives you like an extra 3 to 5 miles on a full charge. I'm like, okay, so it's like a 1% improvement, but not the end of the world. And let's just check here. I'm noticing we are dipping charging performance 173 kilowatts, but it's no fault of the supercharger. It is what the truck wants here at 24%, which Rivians have a little bit of a boost profile. So I'll notice them surge and do some things, and it's always a little bit of temperature, but we pulled in kind of at the perfect temperature. And here again, it's not a limit of the supercharger. It is just a limit of the truck. This is what the truck wants right here. And again, it could be because we're running climate control. It could be because of a multitude of reasons. I've seen this truck pull 200 kilowatts plus at 25%, but this is what it wants when starting at 10% and with climate control on. They're just not great charging vehicles at all. So a lot of you guys will ask, okay, and it's a good point, when we do these 10% challenges, it's really simulating the best case scenario for the truck. Everything's preconditioned. Typically outside temperatures are pretty good, no wind. It's a great way to benchmark the vehicle on a road trip. What it doesn't really paint a picture of, though, is when you're charger hopping, going charger to charger to charger to charger, and especially when towing, which is something I do with my Rivian all the time. And I've actually vowed to kind of just like not go on any more road trips in my Rivian because the battery thermal management and charging just takes forever. The efficiency is bad, all of these things. And it gets worse as you go. Because Rivian uses this single plate cooling, even with the enhanced heat pump and the better cooling systems, you still have these gradient temperatures across the battery pack that once you hotspot an area of the battery pack that the cooling systems can't get to, you're kind of stuck there, and you can't obviously go past your thermal limits in that area. So it's a little bit tough, and it leads to unpredictable charging, longer charging sessions. There are many Rivian owners that just, it doesn't matter. They don't care. A lot of them are not towing and not stressing the trucks all the time. And I get it, totally get it. But when you drive like a Model 3 and you're just going so much farther on a charge and charging, and you know, in the 10% challenge, going so much farther after charging, you're like, oh, okay, the Rivian really is a time suck to road trip this. And the only way to, with electric trucks, to make them better on a road trip is to make them charge better. So my 2 requests for Rivian: high voltage, if they can, as soon as possible. That'd be amazing. Of course, it wouldn't interface natively with the Tesla Supercharging Network V3, but now that V4 cabinets are announced, maybe it's a bit premature. I don't know. At least you can have a split pack situation like GM does and others. Wow, our charging is just getting worse and worse. I'll show you this in a second. So the first is high voltage. If you can't do high voltage, go high current. And if you're going to be able to go high current, fix the thermals. fix whatever's happening right now. So again, guys, this is all the truck wants. And this type of odd charging behavior, you can see we're not at the maximum temp that it should start limiting. The charger is not a limitation, but I am running climate control. This type of 146 kilowatts at 30%. This behavior is what is very common with the Rivian Max Packs, both the Gen 1 and the Gen 2. They're just extremely picky as to when they want to charge at their maximum. And I feel like we had an even better charging session in similar external conditions, actually, with the Gen 1 Max Pack. I had a dual motor Max Gen 1. Was it an R1S though? I can't remember. I think it was a R1S. Yes. But anyway, same battery pack as the Gen 2. They didn't change that at all. Just the enclosure changed, and we got a much better charging session with that. Anyway, this is what this truck's doing. It's unfortunate, but I've had this truck for a while now. I've had multiple Gen 1s and Gen 2s now with the Max Packs, and they just do this sometimes. They just kind of fall on their face. And again, it's not limited by charging session. The supercharger is saying it can give 500 amps. That's the maximum electric vehicle supply equipment current. When the superchargers get hot, that number dips down to compensate, to tell the truck to slow down. Everything is cold to the touch. They just charge like ass. Technical term, terrible charging car, especially considering it's a 140 something kilowatt hour battery pack usable. It's rough. We have just about another 30 seconds of charging. I, of course, will let you know the final stats here. And dang, just sitting at 115, 123, 130 kilowatts. It does these weird little surges. Anyway, I got to end the charging here in a minute. I'll let you know the stats. There we go. Just stopped charging. And I'm going to come over here and shut climate off. I do love the integration that Rivian has with Tesla, telling me exactly how much it costs. Rivian did tell me that they said by the end of the year, so they really only have a few weeks left, that you'll be able to integrate your Tesla Pass, whatever, not Pass Plus, but your Tesla subscription pricing with your plug-in charge on the Rivian situation. Oh, okay, cable's a little stiff there, but it's not that cold out. It's like 40 degrees. We'll close that up. That's the new charging port. And wow, what a absolute dreadful charging performance. I don't want anyone to take my criticism of this truck, by the way, from a charging and range and efficiency standpoint as me not liking the Rivian. I can separate that out. My Rivian is the best single vehicle, or really single thing I've ever purchased. It is the one truck that can do it all. I charge it home most of the time. And on a road trip, well, I'm just keeping it local, just keeping it around Colorado. But I'm certainly happy that I actually have the old large pack in comparison to the new Max Pack, because unless you hit it totally right, and you just don't know when it is totally right, this thing just doesn't charge great at all. We only got up to 36% state of charge, and yeah, I love the truck, and that's all the more reason of the frustration, because I want to get a Gen 2. I want to get the Max Pack. I want to get, a quad motor, really crazy, cool 1,000 horsepower truck. I just cannot buy one until they fix this, because that charging session needs to be fixed for me to spend $130,000, a vehicle that costs way more than a base Porsche Taycan, and that can charge way better. And still is fun to drive and very performance-oriented, like that truck would be. Anyway, with that said, let me just here are the session stats, by the way. So we took 43 kilowatt hours from the charger, 42 and a half went to the battery pack. It's just not great performance there, I have to say. And now it's time to get the truck all set up. So what I'm going to do is come over here, and we're going to reset our trip. So I'm going to come here to trip A, reset trip A, boom. We'll come over here. We're actually going to run all-purpose with low suspension, because there's no eco mode in the dual motor trucks. They do an automatic clutch disconnect in the rear, and that is at standard. You can see the battery pack temperature is up a little bit. And so that's exactly how we're going to run. High regen, low suspension. I'm going to turn off auto suspension because I just want it to be low, even though it will auto lower. And because it's a dual motor truck, auto is the default configuration. So if you like comfy cruising in standard like I do, and you get a dual motor truck, it will always lower on the highway. That's because they're trying to eke out every last bit of EPA range. With all that said, we're going to come over here to climate, turn it on. auto, sync everything. Again, we'll shut off the passenger side. I really just need, well, we'll just run auto low, make sure rear is off. It doesn't seem as easy to just shut off all the passenger stuff. Into reverse, let's jump on the highway, and we're gonna run 80 miles an hour, which would be, I think 81 or 82 indicated. I'll have to check in this truck. Speedometer is not totally calibrated, and we'll be ready to rock and roll. You can see tire pressures are set. They were 48 cold, but then driving over here, they warmed up a bit. That's pretty normal. So you'll see 49, 50, 51 under cruising temperatures, which is how they're designed to operate. So let's get on the highway, see how far we can go. And through the green light, we make it, and straight onto the highway. Absolutely perfect. So what we're going to do is we're going to go about halfway up the highway, maybe a little bit more, because we'll actually have a less efficient drive on the way up than we will on the way down. We gain a little bit of elevation on the first stretch, and then we lose it coming back. And then when we turn around and come back, we'll actually precondition back to the Buc-ee's, and that's how we run it, because you'll be preconditioning to the next charging stop. So it should be pretty, pretty in line with what you're experiencing. You'll notice we're running front wheel drive going onto the highway, and that is because the rear clutch is disconnected. I'm keeping it gentle throttle as we make our way up to speed. And then we will, as soon as we get to 80 miles an hour, I need just a little bit more. I can pull the adaptive cruise control. It says it's unavailable right now. It says it's unavailable. Ah, come on, Rivian. Unavailable. This is when I need it. Okay, hopefully it becomes available soon and we can hold the speed. But I think it's 82 miles an hour that I need to maintain. So I'm going to do it with my foot until it says cruise control available. So I'll do my best to do it manually. Not a good showing for Rivian today, I have to say. They really need to focus on these attention to detail. I got to have a conversation with them. You can actually see all the driver assistance is not working at the moment. Forward collision warning, lane departure. It's almost like that camera is just asleep at the wheel. So I'll drive manually and hopefully it resets, but we'll keep a steady foot. With all of that said, I also just want to make one final comment, which is when we did our cross-country truck race, the Rivian actually did pretty well. It came in third place, but I'm fairly certain the max pack would do worse than the large pack. I just think maybe if you get everything right, it could be better, and certainly the range improvement's nice, but the charging performance of the large is more consistent than what I've seen from max, and the large is not that consistent. So the new large packs use this chemistry, so I'm just speaking exclusively Gen 1 large with the Samsung 50G cell. Pretty sure that cell has been sunsetted in favor of this one. Really, the best Rivian to get is just the standard LFP. That's the one to go for. You just get way better charging than this. That's what I would do. Way less cost. This truck's expensive. This thing's like $100 grand, and it's not even a tri-motor. So yeah, sound systems got really bad for Gen 2. I don't know what's going on at Rivian, but I'm just so happy I have an early Gen 1 truck with the Meridian sound system. My suspension feels better than the new trucks. There's just something about those early trucks that are just awesome. Yeah, I got some clicky axles and stuff, but every time I get into a Gen 2, I'm just like, man, I am not convinced to upgrade. You join me a few miles into the test, and adaptive cruise control has not come back to started working. However, our Matrix high beams are working, so that's great. Got to be really diligent with the throttle just to hold it right at 82. That's where we need to be. Man, wow, everything is not good here. I'm really sorry to say. I'm a huge Rivian fan. I love the company, love the people. I really love everything that's going on there, but this truck is just not an improvement from Gen 1, from everything we're experiencing right now in this video. The sound system is dreadful. This has the upgraded sound system, which they like charge you a couple grand for because it comes now with the glass roof or some option thing, I don't know. But like, it might be the worst sound system installed in any new car. It like has, the problem is like it has the power, it's got the sub, it's got the stuff, but then the sound stage is mush. Everything just gets crammed to the middle. You have nothing going on up front. You got to like jam the fader all the way front. You've got, all the different guys on the forum saying, try this EQ setup, and then it's not too bad. And my buddy Jose is like, turn off spatial audio, but he uses Apple Music. He says it's even worse when you use spatial audio there. I'm using Spotify. I don't see that setting, but regardless, I've tried FM, all the different audio sources, Bluetooth. They all sound like a literal trash can. So forgive me for being too harsh in this video, because I also woke up early to get this video in. And man, I feel like I should have just stayed in bed. I would have had a better day. It's just, why are so many things going wrong here? Okay, we need to get some positivity going over here, Kyle. We are not, oh no, 84, slow down. 82, that's where we need to go to maintain 80. Oh my goodness. Maybe what you can see that is pretty cool is we're actually on high beam right now, but the matrix function is blocking out the truck right there, which is awesome. So if I move to the right, you'll see that the pixels open up, especially for oncoming as well. And that works pretty well. It's definitely not perfect, and I want to do a video showcasing that. The headlight thing's really cool. It's the first vehicle on sale with adaptive driving beam made possible by matrix lighting function. Really like that. But yeah, everything else not great. Still no adaptive cruise. I was going to show you how annoying Driver Plus is. We're going to run this in the hogback test because Rivian Gen 1 did really well in the hogback test. I'm actually going to run a Gen 1 and Gen 2 side by side in the hogback because I think people, you know, they're totally different systems. We should benchmark both on the same software version. However, what I was going to say was it requires pre-mapping of roads, therefore it doesn't even work anywhere near me. Because this road's been under construction for a few years, it basically doesn't work near my house. So even in my Rivian, I get no lane centering, and I just wish it would see the lanes in the road and just do some basic lane centering, and then give me more functionality, hands-free, whatever, you know, they want to do on roads that are not pre-mapped. Or sorry, that are pre-mapped, but when it's not pre-mapped, at least just give me basic lane centering like literally everyone except GM does. We are at the famous Buckeye exit. This is where we're going to be making our turnaround. By the way, still no driver assistance. Oh no, we're 35 miles in, which is not painting a good picture as to how things will go for this test. I have to send Rivian an email and just be like, okay, I need to go have a chat with all the engineers, figure out what really is going on here, because there's so many compounding problems. The charging performance, the sound system. What am I doing? Oh, we have to navigate to the charging station. So we'll come here, navigate to Tesla, so it preconditions to follow the testing procedures. There we go. It says we'll get there right at 10%, 39 miles. Which is just, you know, that's 9%, but close enough. Yeah, wow. Just lots of compounding problems here. And the truck should be better. Like, a goal for Gen 2 was a lot of cost cutting, of course, but they should not have done cost cutting in the areas of refinement and the total vehicle calibration. Yep, still no adaptive cruise. I mean, I probably could have opened the door and reset it, but I got to just, you know, the testing procedure doesn't really allow for that. We just got to keep going. So gentle accelerations up to speed, 78, 79, 80, 1, 2, and I cannot lock it in on cruise control because there is no cruise control at the moment. 83, back it down a little bit. So yeah, like charging performance sucked for some weird reason, and it shouldn't have any reason to suck. Driver assistance isn't working at all. Sound system sucks. When I launched it the other day, it sounded like the whole front motor exited the chat room. Just a huge thud from the front. The brakes overheat too quickly when you drive it hard. I don't know what's going on here. Oh no. The sun is starting to come up a little bit, and we are preconditioning, heading back to the charging station. So I think we've timed this perfectly. Beautiful sunrise here. And that is how we're going to treat today. Right after this, we're doing a range test on this truck. I actually think it's going to do pretty good on the range test. I really do. I just think so many people will make a buying decision off of range and not off the total vehicle calibration and charging and all that good stuff. Has access to superchargers, yes, but the truck's more of a limit than the supercharger, and that's when you know you've got a problem. And And with this beautiful sunrise, we are going by the Out of Spec hub. If you're ever driving on I-25 and you're coming through exit 269B, just look to your right. That's the hub right there. Cool beans. Let's keep ripping. No adaptive cruise yet. We are driving by where we started, and we are currently at 12% state of charge. So that leaves us pretty close to where we kind of need to be. Yep, so we'll just run it down until it dips from 11 to 10. But yeah, pretty good timing, pretty good spot. Beautiful sunrise. Things are looking brighter for the day. Not the adaptive cruise control. That still doesn't work. I'm still having to do this all manually. Just took the exit 1 past Buc-ee's only because I spotted a little bit of traffic up over that way. So we're at 11%. So yep, we're just gonna merge gently back up to highway speeds. This is all within testing procedures, but of course we always try to have it run out as close as possible. I just think we're gonna have this uphill, so I hope we can get up to highway speeds still at 11% before it dips to 10. But just gentle accelerations, trying to keep that rear motor off and just run front wheel drive here. And I do wish there was a button to just not have the clutch disconnect do its thing and just keep both motors locked up. Even if I could just program it to a hotkey, because key up, they might need to keep it for EPA testing, automatic. But you just always hear a little NVH, a little thud every time it engages that rear motor. So back up to speed we go, and I'll let you know when we dip from 11 to 10%, and we will log the distance. There we go, 10% state of charge, and it's actually right at Buc-ee's when we hit it, so we've canceled all elevation. That was actually pretty perfect. 75 miles is all it did. 1.93 miles per kilowatt hour. I'll share my final thoughts on the truck, on the experience driving this thing, and then we will compare this to other results that we have. Well, guys, we are back after a pretty unfortunate quick 10% challenge. I think, just to back up for a second, the 30,000 foot view, the zooming out, the Rivian is still one of the best vehicles on the market, regardless of electric or combustion. The driving behavior of the vehicle, the spider web of capabilities, it just has very few major compromises. The problems that, I guess let's just continue complimenting it for a second. They handle great. They've, are great off-road. Bunch of pros. We all know why I love the Rivian. I've always said it's the best thing I've ever spent money on. And maybe that's why I'm even more annoyed with the Gen 2. The thing is, I would have expected things to improve for the second generation. And certainly some things have. You have different headlights, better software. My truck kind of feels the same from a software perspective, but it sounds like it's going to expand. I'd like to say better driver assistance, but I don't really get a chance to use it much around me, and we lost cruise control there, so maybe there's some bugginess in there. I'm sure I can reset the truck and it'll come back fine. The problem, and really, you can come at me if I'm being too harsh in the comments, but the problems I have with the truck are it just didn't improve in very many ways from Gen 1. The first is, of course, you have the heat pump up front that should be more efficient, yes, but also one of the main reasons they went with a heat pump was to reduce NVH and to make it a little bit quieter. However, most of the time now, driving around, especially in cold temperatures, it just sounds like your suspension air compressor is running all the time because it's running at a low RPM. It's a very resonancy type tone, and you just have a way louder everyday driving experience. Not to mention when the AC is ripping, it's incredibly loud from the outside of the vehicle now, where if you're in a neighborhood, this thing's way louder than a combustion car coming up. So I'm not sold on the thermal management. Continuing on with thermal management and charge management, that charging session we had was ass. Technical term, ass. Really bad. That was one of the worst charging sessions. And again, we got the truck preconditioned here. We had the right temperatures. The charger never limited. And that's what it did. And that's just inexcusable. We've been complaining about charging since day one with Rivian. And if anything, it got worse. It didn't get better. My truck is more consistent. My 60,000 mile Gen 1 truck is more consistent than this brand new $100,000 truck at charging. That is crazy to me. And then continuing on with the problems, the front motor sounded like it wanted to rip out when I launched it the other day. Some of the build quality stuff on this truck wasn't great. The doors were hitting panels. Colton did a whole video on it. I don't know. That doesn't really bother me too much. But yeah, just like, I think when I drive this truck, what I'm trying to boil it down to is it just feels like Rivian is distracted. They have to stay alive as a company, so a lot of cost came out of this truck. They have this big software deal with Volkswagen. That's the hot thing. R2 and R3 maybe is what's distracting, maybe some of the engineering resources. But the truck just feels like it wasn't really designed in a holistic way. The upgrades to the electrical systems and many other things are not felt from the end user yet. Maybe a couple little things, but really not really. And the sound system's trash, really bad. They really need to fix that as soon as possible. So I don't know how it got this bad. I've got more digging to do. I've already sent them an email like, guys, I need to come talk to everyone and figure out what happened here. So again, like I said, roast me in the comments if you think I'm being too harsh. It's a brand I love. It's a company I love. The people are amazing. The product, the Gen 2, is a really good product. But coming from a Gen 1 perspective, it's just not better. It's not a better truck. And that annoys me because I want a quad motor, new 1,000 horsepower crazy thing. But no way I would spend any money to exchange my truck for something like this. And certainly adding more horsepower just means worse thermals. I know that because I've had one on track and I still have to do that video of dual tri and quad. There's a whole story to that. Anyway, let's go evaluate the data so I can put this video up. And like I said, roast me if you think I'm being too harsh, but I think Rivian needs the wake-up call. By the way, I'm just sort of going through that same charging process and very similar behavior again. We were ripping 200 kilowatts and we're already down to 175 here at 26%. So I just double checking that everything was right. And so far, yes, everything was right. Yep, and again, down to that 130-ish kilowatt range at 35%. My truck's still ripping 200 kilowatts here, by the way. Not this 138 BS. What? How is it repeatable? I thought like we had just had a bad session. No, this is what it's doing. And leaving the supercharger, I was hoping to report driver assistance is back, and maybe it is. Maybe those warnings going away means it's unavailable. Okay, we'll see what happens when we get on the highway. We are back cruising on the highway, and cruise control still hasn't worked after that. Probably have to hold the hazard and the left scroll wheel to reset the truck to get it back. Also, it just makes such a funny noise every time you go hard throttle when the rear motor kicks in. So watch this. I'm just gonna floor it real quick. There it goes. There's always a little bit of a delay and then a little high-pitched inverter whine. It's certainly better tuned than the Gen 1. The Gen 2 rear motor disconnect is better than Gen 1, for sure. Still not great, but it's nice to have it in an eco mode or just give me an off, leave everything connected mode, especially when driving around town. I just like having the all-wheel drive, instant power available. You can drive it in sport mode, but then you lose your suspension comfort, and that keeps everything locked up. Or what a lot of people do, like my buddy Drew, who has one, he keeps it in snow mode all the time, but then snow mode kills your cruise control and driver assistance. But then at least you get the squishy suspension. And in this one, well, cruise control and driver assistance doesn't work anyway. So what really is the downside? I guess nothing. Will you join me at home with Walter, who's in his pen because he's recovering from surgery. He's doing well. Good job, buddy. And I've pulled up our 10% challenge, and I've pulled up the Rivians that we've run before. So we've run a 24 Rivian R1T dual motor large, dual motor max, R1S dual motor max, and the new Gen 2 dual motor standard. So the Gen 2 LFP is leading. The previous generation dual motor max would be this one here, sort of matched the large pack. Interesting, it did a better charging session with the same battery. Energy delivered from charger was 47 kilowatt hours in that one. This one was like, 40-ish? So it was like a 7 kilowatt hour difference. And so I'm not sure if the software version we're on is different or the ambient conditions. I mean, ambient temperature was the same, 36 there. So that may have been even a little bit slightly colder than when we did everything. So again, it's hard to say why this truck repeatedly charged slower other than different software, different thermal management than this Gen 1 dual motor max 21-inch truck. That's on the Aero wheels, by the way. Dang, and that's on 218 kilowatts. We did not see that at all. We saw, just low 200s. Anyway, the new truck will get added here at some point, and it'll be 75 miles. So we're not going in the right direction. So if you want a Rivian for road tripping, give up that, especially if you hop from charger to charger, go for the LFP. They seem to have the best temperature management and the most repeatability in terms of charging. So that's the one I would do. With all of that said, it's time to end the video. Stay tuned for our range test of this Rivian R1T. I'm about to go head out and do that. But the charging plus the efficiency at high speed just means, okay, things are not good here. So again, let me know what you think in the comments, but I'll leave that with you. I'll update you guys if Rivian can invite us to go meet with some engineers. I just sent them an email, like I mentioned, requesting to can I just talk to some people to figure out what the heck is going on here, because I'm just at a loss for words. Let me know if you agree or disagree in the comment section, and I'll see you on another one again soon. Bye-bye.